Horse meat tastes closer to beef than pork does to beef. It's leaner. It's safer by some measures, and in dozens of countries, it's just dinner. Here, the idea alone makes people angry. In 2013, grocery stores across Europe pulled millions of beef products off the shelves overnight. The beef wasn't beef, it was horse. And the scandal wasn't that anyone got sick. Nobody did. The scandal was just finding out what they'd already eaten. So here's the actual question. Put a cow and a horse side by side. Same size, similar diet, comparable meat, and explain using only biology why one of them is dinner and the other one is basically a member of the family. Start with the obvious answer because it's tempting, but it doesn't hold up. Maybe horse meat is dangerous. Maybe it's nutritionally inferior. Neither is true. Horse meat is lower in fat and cholesterol than beef, higher in protein by weight, and by most food safety standards, no more dangerous to eat than any other livestock, provided it's raised and slaughtered under the same regulations. France, Japan, Kazakhstan, Italy, and Mexico all eat horse meat regularly, and their populations show no unusual health risks tied to it. Kazakhstan alone raises horses specifically for meat production at an industrial scale, with a domestic market built around it for centuries. If biology were the deciding factor, horse meat would be sitting next to beef in every grocery store on Earth. It isn't, which means the answer isn't in the animal, it's somewhere else entirely. Here's where the actual explanation starts. Horses spent thousands of years doing a job cows never did. A cow, historically, existed almost entirely to be eaten, milked, or used for labor in a field. A horse carried you into battle. A horse pulled your plow, your cart, your entire livelihood, and did it standing next to you, responding to your voice for years at a time. You don't build the same relationship with an animal you're fattening for slaughter that you build with an animal you've ridden every day for a decade. That distinction runs deeper than sentiment. It shows up in how each animal was actually used across history. Cattle were bred almost exclusively for output, meat, milk, hide, and labor, but labor in the sense of pulling a plow slowly through a field, not partnership. A cow doesn't need training, it needs feeding and fencing. A horse required an entirely different kind of investment. Training a horse for riding, for war, for herding, took months of consistent, individualized effort, building a working relationship with a specific animal that had a name, a temperament, and a personality the rider learned to read. Military history is full of this. Cavalry horses in the 19th and 20th centuries were documented by name, mourned when killed, sometimes buried with more ceremony than the soldiers standing next to them. Alexander the Great's horse, Bucephalus, has an entire city named after it. Nobody names a city after a cow. That kind of relationship changes the psychological category an animal gets filed under. Cattle stayed filed under livestock. Horses got filed somewhere closer to companion or co-worker long before anyone formalized it into law or custom. And once an animal crosses into that category, eating it stops being a food decision and starts feeling like something closer to betrayal. This is where culture stops being implicit and starts getting formalized. Pope Gregory III issued a decree in the 8th century specifically discouraging the consumption of horse meat across parts of Christian Europe, partly because eating horse was associated with pagan ritual sacrifice practiced by Germanic and Norse tribes at the time. Banning the meat was, in part, a way of severing a competing religious practice, not a food safety measure. That religious discouragement rippled outward for centuries. In England, horse meat consumption became so culturally unthinkable that by the time it resurfaced as a food safety topic in the 20th century, the reaction wasn't caution. It was disgust. The 2013 horse meat scandal proved this precisely. Investigators found that supposedly all beef products across the UK and Ireland contained undeclared horse meat, in some cases up to 100% of the meat content. There was no confirmed health risk. The meat was passed as safe for consumption, and the public reaction was still one of the largest food scandals in modern European history, entirely because of what the meat was, not what it did to anyone's body. Meanwhile, in countries without that specific religious history, none of this ever became taboo in the first place. Japan's basashi, thinly sliced raw horse meat, is a standard izakaya dish with no cultural baggage attached to it. Kazakhstan's entire culinary identity includes horse meat sausage as a staple, tied to a nomadic herding history where horses were both transportation and food. Without the companion animal framing that developed in Western Europe, the taboo isn't universal. It's a specific historical accident that took root in some places and never took root in others. Not every case fits neatly, and the exceptions reveal how fragile this taboo actually is. During both world wars, when beef became scarce and rationed, horse meat consumption spiked across parts of Europe and the United States, including in countries where it was otherwise avoided. People who considered horse meat unthinkable in peacetime ate it without much protest when supply chains collapsed. The taboo didn't disappear because anyone changed their mind about horses. It disappeared the moment the alternative got expensive enough. The reverse happened too. In the United States, horse slaughter for human consumption was effectively shut down in 2007. Not through a health regulation, but through funding restrictions that defunded federal inspection of horse slaughterhouses, a move driven almost entirely by public sentiment rather than any scientific concern. American horses are still shipped to Canada and Mexico for slaughter and sold into European and Asian markets, meaning the meat still exists, the demand still exists, it just isn't allowed to happen on American soil, under American eyes. And there's a franchise-level irony sitting inside all of this. In several US states today, it's illegal to sell horse meat for human consumption at all, while zero laws exist preventing someone from eating a cow raised under nearly identical conditions on the farm next door. The line isn't biological, nutritional, or economic. It's a line drawn entirely by which animal we decided, generations ago, to build a relationship with instead of a menu around. So the real answer isn't that horse meat is unsafe, or that it tastes wrong, or that there's something inherently different about the animal. It's that somewhere in our history, one animal earned a name, a job, and a place next to us, while the other one stayed classified as dinner from the very beginning. Somewhere in Kazakhstan right now, a horse sausage is being made exactly the way it has been for 1,000 years, sitting on a plate that would horrify someone eating a burger a few thousand miles away, from an animal that's biologically almost interchangeable with the one in that burger. It was never really about the meat. It was about which animals we let close enough to become something other than food.